Hello and welcome. So I've got these beautiful watches here because I want to add a colorful sunburst dial watch to my collection. So this is the Orient Kamasu with the burgundy red dial, and this one is the Orient Ray 2 with the blue dial. So these watches are very similar in some aspects, but also very different. Obviously, like the case shape and the crown is very similar, but there are significant differences. The Kamasu has a sapphire crystal, while the Ray only has a mineral crystal. And of course the hour markers are very different. So yeah, you see the Kamasu has these tooth-like hour markers, and the the Ray has the circular hour markers. So it's kind of it depends on personal taste which one you like better. But yeah, I don't know, it's hard to decide. So I got these two, but I'm only going to keep one because I already have enough watches. I'm not gonna add two more watches to my collection. But yeah, my other watches are like this Triton here, which has a black background or black dial, and I have the SKX 007 and the Black Citizen NY0040. So I really want to have a nice colorful watch. Yeah. So let's see the differences actually between the watches. So these Orients have very narrow or very small crowns, as you can see. Just in comparison, the Triton, let's take it off. The Triton has a very big crown. You see, this is a huge crown that the Triton has, and it's very easy to operate. It's extremely wobbly though. It wobbles like crazy, but it's very easy to operate. And also the bezel on the Triton, it's like very easy to operate. And the Triton also has a sapphire crystal, so I like the Triton a lot. Okay, but let's go back to these ones here. So the crown is very small, which makes it difficult to operate them. Not always. So if you have dry fingers, then the crown is like normal. It's pretty easy to operate. But if you are sweaty or the humidity is high and your fingers are not completely dry, then it's really very hard to operate the crowns on these. The Kamasu is a bit better in that respect, because these grips here on the crown are deeper, but on the Ray they are more shallow. So yeah, the crown operation of the Kamasu is better, definitely better. And also the crowns are very solid, so if you just screw them out, it's a solid crown. It's not wobbly, which is unfortunate for the Triton that it's so wobbly. But yeah, they have solid crowns, small crowns but solid crowns. Okay, so when it comes to crown operation, the Kamasu wins. When it comes to the bezel, also the Kamasu is better, and let me explain why. Because the Ray is, so if you have dry fingers, it's fairly easy to operate. But the same problem is here, that with sweaty or wet fingers, forget it. You cannot really turn the bezel. because on the ray these coin edges are like smaller, and on the Kamasu these coin edges are bigger, so it's just easier to turn the crown on the Kamasu. It's actually a lot easier. And also the Lume peep. You see the Lume peep on the Kamasu is recessed, so it's really protected by the bezel. But the Lume peep on the ray, it sticks out. It's not protected by the bezel, so I think that this Lume peep is, or yeah, it is quite vulnerable to damage. So if you hit the bezel here against some hard surface, I could imagine that you know, this you would lose the peep, the Lume peep. So the Lume peep on the Kamasu is better. And also the crystal. The Kamasu has a sapphire crystal, and the sapphire crystal is a little bit recessed, so the crystal is protected by the bezel. Although it's a sapphire, and on the ray, you know, it's a mineral crystal, so this one really needs protection, but it doesn't get it because the crystal on the ray sticks out just a little bit, and it's not protected by the bezel. Yeah, so if you put these watches face down, the Kamasu, the crystal on the Kamasu won't touch the surface, even though it's sapphire. You know, the crystal on the ray, it is touching the surface. So yeah, it's like I think that Orient learned from their mistakes that they made with the ray, and they corrected a lot of mistakes on the Kamasu. So the Kamasu is really an improved, upgraded version of the ray. But there is one negative about the Kamasu. One negative which is, for me personally, a very, very big negative. Because for me, the lume is very important. And the ray has an excellent lume. The lume is just as great as it is on the Triton and on the SKX. So the lume is fantastic on the ray, but the lume on the Kamasu is weak. Because these hour markers are very narrow, and you see these metallic frames around the lume, but there is also kind of a white frame around the lume, so the lume doesn't cover the entire surface between the, or how should I say, inside the metallic frame, but the lume itself is even smaller, or it covers a smaller surface. So that's why these hour markers are very, very narrow and very tiny when it comes to the lume, when you're looking at the watch in darkness, while the ray too is just glowing like crazy. These are nice big circles. The lume is the ray is just so much better and so much easier to read in darkness. Yeah. So actually, if the Kamasu had the same kind of lume as the ray, I would say, yeah, the Kamasu is the winner. But the lume, for me, the lume is very important. And even though the Kamasu is technically better, it's got better specs, the crown is better, bezel is better, lume peep is better, it's got a sapphire crystal. The lume for me is such a big negative. Yeah. And let's go to the bracelet. So this one here, the ray, has a very nice bracelet. You see this safety clasp, it's solid. You have to apply force to open it. It's very nice. While on the Kamasu, It's so loose. It almost opens by itself. Almost. It doesn't, but almost. You have to apply very little force to open it, which is unfortunate. On the Triton, it is also very solid. So the safety clasp on the Triton and on the Ray is excellent. It's very solid, very strong. But here on the KAMASU, it's just so loose, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, but of course you can solve this problem by installing a very nice strap cooled bracelet or a NATO, whatever. Yeah, beautiful watches, beautiful dials. But yeah, this burgundy dial is just so unique, so beautiful. But on the Ray, the dial is more interesting. So this blue sunburst dial is beautiful, but it's also got the red tip on the second hand, and there is a little red accent inside the Orient logo, and these red accents on the blue dial, they just look so nice, and that's why for me the dial of the Ray is more appealing than the dial of the KAMASU. So don't get me wrong, both dials are stunningly beautiful, insanely beautiful. You really have to see these in person. These are so beautiful, but the dial on the Ray is even more beautiful and more interesting because it's just more colorful. You have the red accents on the blue surface or blue dial, while on the KAMASU you just have this really, it's like more like a dual toned color, or how should I put it? So there is the red accent in the Orient logo, but the dial itself is red, so it's not popping out. What I like with the Ray, that really these red accents, they pop out. They really pop out on the dial. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep the Ray. It's crazy because the specs on the KAMASU are much better, but you know, I don't buy watches because of the specs. The reason I own a watch because I really like it. It has to be appealing, like it has to look nice, beautiful, it has to work well, and that's why I like my Citizen ProMaster a lot, because it's got this beautiful black glossy dial. It is just so beautiful. The Triton has just a matte dial like the SKX. It's nothing interesting. I like the Triton because it's big. It's big, heavy, it's got the power reserve indicator. But these dials, oh my, these dials. Let's put the Citizen here because it's got the beautiful glossy deep black dial. These dials are beautiful. Okay. It's really hard to decide between these two. I would love to keep both, but I don't want to, because I know that one of them, if I kept both, one of them would be just neglected, and I don't want to have a watch just to have it. I want to wear it regularly, so yeah. I wish the Lume was better on the KAMASU. If the Lume was better on the KAMASU, I think I would pick the KAMASU. Because, you know, the sapphire, having a sapphire crystal is a huge plus. But having a weak Lume is a huge minus. Yeah, what else to say? What else is there to say? I have to say the KAMASU is very elegant, so it's really, I think if you want to have a dress watch, just purely a dress watch, the KAMASU is better, because it's just, somehow it looks more elegant, and it's got a very, very, like, very unique wrist presence because of the unique dial. The KAMASU has a better wrist presence. So if I only consider the wrist presence, the KAMASU wins. But if I consider all the factors which are very, very subjective, you know, the dial, the blue dial, the red accents on the blue dial, the Lume, the Ray wins. Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to keep them both because I have enough watches. I already have enough automatic watches. And by the way, I got these from Amazon. The KAMASU was 200 euros, the Ray was 150 euros. So it's amazing what you get for the price. In the case of the KAMASU, for 200 euros you get a modern automatic watch with a beautiful dial with sapphire crystal. It's crazy, it's crazy. It's for only 200 euros. By the way, the movement is, I think, the same. Both are hacking and hand winding. But the Ray for 150, it's also amazing. It's really, for 150 euros, you have such a beautiful watch, and because it's so cheap, I mean, compared to other automatic divers, it's so cheap that you really don't have to worry what happens if you break it. Yeah, you don't lose much money if you break it. I mean, compared to something like the Triton, of course. Triton is more expensive. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Beautiful watches. Very, very beautiful watches. Orient is nice. Okay, whatever. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.